네, 의장님 감사합니다.
Thank you very much,
슈밥 회장님,
respected
구리아
Executive
OECD
Chairman
사무총장님,
Klaus Schwab,
세계의
Honorable
지도자
Secretary
여러분,
General Angel Gurria,
다보스 아젠다
global
주간에
leaders,
글로벌 리더 여러분과
I am
함께
greatly pleased
포용적
to
회복과
explore our
도약의
path of
길을
inclusive recovery and
모색하게 되어
resurgence
매우 기쁘게
together with global
생각합니다.
leaders at this Davos agenda.
2020년은 모두가 힘든
2020 was
한
indeed a
해였지만
difficult year
그와
for us all.
함께 연대와
But it was
협력의
also a year
결실함이
when
어느
solidarity
때보다
and
커진
cooperation
한
were more
해이기도
desperately
했습니다.
needed than ever before.
한국이 신속하게 진단
The Republic
키트를
of Korea was
만들어
able to
방역
quickly
현장에서
make and deliver
사용할 수 있었던
diagnostic
것은
kits in the fight to control the
WHO가
pandemic,
코로나
thanks
관련
to the
정보를
COVID-19
영국과
information that the
공유해 준
WHO shared
덕분입니다.
with its member nations.
통상 10년씩 걸리던
Vaccine
백신
development,
개발이
which
불과
typically takes a
1년도
decade
걸리지
to
않아
complete,
완료될 수
was
있었던 것도
accomplished in less
많은
than
나라와
1 year's
기업,
time due to the
연구자들이
collective
힘을
efforts of
모은
many countries,
결과입니다.
corporations, and
그러나
researchers.
상황이
And yet, we
낙관적이지만은
are still
않습니다.
not in the clear.
경제가 회복되고 있지만
The economy is
코로나
recovering,
양극화와
but the
불평등이
polarizations
더욱
and
커지고
inequities brought
있습니다.
by the pandemic are
코로나가
growing even
장기화되는
bigger.
가운데
As
불평등이
COVID-19
확대되는
becomes more
것은
prolonged,
많은
inequality
나라에서
is widening,
계층 간의
a gap
문제이기도 하고
that we are
국가
witnessing both
간의
within
문제이기도
countries
합니다.
and between
당장
countries.
코로나 방역과 경제
Equally
위기에
as important as
대처하는
responding to the
것만큼
immediate COVID-19
포스트 코로나
outbreak
시대의
and the economic
양극화와
crisis
불평등을
is our
막기 위해
commitment to pool our
인류가
wisdom to
지혜를
fight
모으는
against
일도
polarization and
중요합니다.
inequality in the
그런 의미에서
post-COVID-19 era.
세계경제포럼이
Which is why I
시대 재건을
believe
위한
the theme
중요한
for
회를
this year's
이번
World
포럼의
Economic
주제로
Forum,
삼은
a
것은
crucial
매우
year to rebuild
시의적절합니다.
trust, is very timely.
세계의 지도자 여러분,
Global leaders,
한국이 세계에서 두 번째로
when
코로나의 도전을 받게
Korea
되었을
became
때
the second country in
사회적
the world to
약자
fall
그
prey to
누구도 배제하지
COVID-19,
않는
we made it a
포용의
principle
정신을
to keep
해결의
to the spirit
이정표로
of
삼았습니다.
inclusiveness, where we would leave
국적을
no
가리지
vulnerable
않고
persons behind.
누구나 신속한
We administered
검사와
rapid and
격리
free
치료를
testing and treatment to
무료로
patients in
받을 수 있게
quarantine,
하고
regardless of
마스크가
their
부족했을
nationalities.
때 마스크
And when there was a
무제로
shortage of face
전
masks,
국민
we
모두가
introduced a
공평하게
5-day
필요한
rotation
만큼
rationing system,
마스크를
enabling
구입할 수
every
있게 한
Korean to
것이
purchase as
대표적인
many masks
사례입니다.
as they needed.
이제 한국은
Now,
코로나 극복의
Korea
단계로
has entered the
진입하며
stage of
포용적
overcoming
회복과
this pandemic
도약을
and has set a
목표로 하고
goal for
있습니다.
inclusive
그
recovery
시작은
and
다른
resurgence.
나라들과 마찬가지로
As with all other
집단
countries,
면역의
we will begin by
첫걸음이
carrying
될
out
백신
vaccinations, which
접종이
will be
될
the first step
것입니다.
we take towards herd
한국은
immunity.
여러 제약회사와
Korea
협업을
has entered
맺어
into
전
contracts with
국민에게
many
충분한
pharmaceutical companies
다양한
to secure
종류의
a
백신을
supply of
확보했고
various types of
일상
vaccines that
회복의
will sufficiently
포용성을
cover
높이기
our
위해
entire
전
population.
국민
And we
무료
have decided
접종을
on free
결정했습니다.
vaccinations for the country to
백신
uphold the
접종은
cause of an
다음
inclusive
달부터
recovery in our everyday
요양병원,
lives. Starting next month,
노인의료복지시설,
we will roll out
저위험
vaccines to nursing
의료기관
facilities,
종사자와
elderly medical
돌봄 종사자 등을
welfare
시작으로
facilities,
우선
at-risk
순위에
medical
따라 이루어질
professionals,
것입니다.
and care workers
이미
according to priority.
백신별 특성을 고려하여 운송과 보관,
The Korean
접종으로서
government
최적화된 방안과
is
함께
coming up with
예산
optimized
반영 시
measures
대처
for
방안과
vaccine
피해
transport,
보상 체계를
storage, and
준비하고
administration
있습니다.
according to each drug type, as well
자체
as
백신 개발에도
countermeasures and
최선을
compensations
다하고
against any
한국에서
adverse
개발 중인
reactions.
치료제가
We are also
성공하면
working hard on our
원하는
own
나라에
homegrown vaccines,
포용적으로
and when the
공급될
treatments
수
being
있도록
developed in Korea are
지원하겠습니다.
successful, we will supply them to any
한국은
country that
또한
requests it
포용적
in a
회복을
spirit of
위해 위기
inclusiveness.
속에서
For the sake
격차가
of an
더 커지지
inclusive
않도록
recovery, Korea has also
노력해왔습니다.
strived to prevent the gaps in our
적극적인
society
포용 유지
from widening
정책과
further amid
공공
this
일자리
crisis.
창출 등의
We have
정책으로
absorbed employment
포용
shocks through
충격을
initiatives such
완화했고
as substantial job retention
저소득층에
policies
대한
and
정부
creation
지원을
of public
대폭
sector
늘려
jobs,
재정을
and
통한
dramatically
분배
scaled up
개선
subsidies
효과를
for low-income
높였습니다.
families to improve the
3차에
distribution
걸친
effect made
정부의
possible by fiscal
재난지원금과
spending.
포용
The
유지
government
지원금,
has provided relief quickly,
저소득층 소비
prioritizing
확보,
those with the
긴급
most
고용
urgent
안정
needs with 3
지원금,
rounds of emergency relief
소상공인
payments,
세입망
as well as
자금은
job retention
더
support,
어려운 사람들에게
vouchers to low-income
더 먼저,
households,
더
support
빠르게
funds to the
지급되었고
self-employed and freelancers,
특수노동자
and
보호,
financial assistance to small
산재보험과
businesses.
고용보험
We are speeding
가입
up efforts to
확대와
bridge the
같이
gaps in our society
사회
by providing
곳곳의
better
격차를
protection to
줄이기
essential
위한
workers
노력에도
and expanding
속도를
workers'
내고 있습니다.
compensation and employment insurance
거기서
benefits
한 발 더
to more
나아가
workers. But
정부의
we want to
방역
do more.
조치로 영업
We are
금지
discussing
또는
compensation
영업
measures for
제한을
small
받는
businesses and self-employed
소상공인
individuals
자영업자에
for
대한
losses
손실
attributable to
보상제와
COVID-19 related
코로나
restrictions and
성자
closures.
기업의
My administration of the legislature are also discussing a profit-sharing system in which the government provides strong incentives to companies that have prospered during the COVID-19 pandemic to share their profits with their hardest-hit peers of their voluntary goodwill. More wisdom will be needed to work out the details, but if these initiatives are realized, they can become a benchmark for inclusive policies to use in overcoming future pandemics together.
Leaders of the world. Last year, Korea achieved the highest growth rate among the OECD member countries while minimizing negative impacts to the economy. Korea's GDP ranking is projected to rise to the world's top 10, and our benchmark stock index also posted the highest growth rate among the G20 countries. The world is taking note of the stellar economic performance that Korea has achieved while carrying out an exemplary pandemic response, and domestic and foreign investors also present optimistic outlooks for the Korean economy. The Korean economy has already returned to positive growth since the last third quarter. In December, our exports surpassed $50 billion in 2 years, marking an all-time high for the month of December. In the first half of this year, the Korean economy is expected to recover to pre-COVID-19 levels. And also in terms of the combined growth rate, combining the growth rate from last year and this year, we're going to record the highest growth rate as well. Amidst this fast economic recovery, the Korean people are now seeing for themselves the possibility of getting back to normal, as well as making an inclusive recovery and takeoff in the economy. We're also taking on a more daring challenge with the Korean New Deal. Through the Korean New Deal initiative, Korea will expand employment and social safety nets and attain an inclusive recovery. Our digital and Green New Deal will deliver sustainable growth for the Korean economy to reach new heights. Moreover, the regionally balanced New Deal will help revitalize local economies and enhance the quality of life for all. The Korean government is planning to inject 160 trillion won into the Korean New Deal by 2025. To be more specific, we will invest 28 trillion won to strengthen employment and social safety nets, 58 trillion won in the Digital New Deal, and 73 trillion won in the Green New Deal, thereby creating jobs and growth engines for the future. The private sector, for its part, has been unveiling large-scale investment plans one after another. And as the New Deal Fund mobilizing policy funds and private financing gains greater traction, total investment is expected to be scaled up even further. Korea is equipped with world-class ICT infrastructure, with remarkable progress made in digital competitiveness. For new products and technologies that combine IT, the environment, energy, and other green industries, Korea can also be utilized as their testbed. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Korea has never enforced any lockdowns or border closures. This clearly demonstrates that Korea, more than anything, is a safe and stable business partner and investment destination. I hope that the Korean New Deal will lay ground for global companies and venture startups to take on new challenges and become a catalyst for expanding cooperation in future industries. The Green New Deal represents extraordinary efforts on the part of the Korean people to enhance stewardship of our global commons, the theme of this meeting. Last year, with an aim to join the global response to climate change and build an inclusive and sustainable growth for humanity, Korea declared the carbon neutrality vision for 2050. We will vigorously push ahead with carbon neutrality across all aspects of the economy and society while fostering a low-carbon industrial ecosystem. Korea will host the second P4G summit in May, through which we seek to exert our utmost effort to spearhead international cooperation in overcoming the climate crisis. On the note, I ask for your keen interest and participation. Respected global leaders, in the face of countless uncertainties and risks, there were those who never faltered but rose to the challenge. The history of humanity advanced as a result. Even now, as we're living through the pandemic, Humanity is overcoming hunger, disease, and war, and practicing the shared values of freedom and democracy, humanitarianism, and multilateralism, taking one step forward at a time. Now, to move towards new, more inclusive society rather than towards a K-shaped recovery, the world must further reinforce solidarity and collaboration. Korea supports the WHO's efforts to ensure equitable access to vaccines and is taking an active part in the COVAX facility. I expect that international cooperation will strengthen in distributing vaccines to developing countries, and our cooperation with the International Vaccine Institute will expand further. Furthermore, I hope that the actions agreed by G20 last year to support world trade and investment in response to COVID-19, as well as essential cross-border movement of people, will be facilitated smoothly. Through multilateral cooperation, I hope that a more sustainable and inclusive recovery will be achieved together. The Republic of Korea remains deeply committed to surmounting this crisis together with the entire world and is ready to actively join the international community's call for solidarity and cooperation. As a country with an exemplary track record in epidemic control and prevention, Korea seeks to share its experiences in COVID-19 response with the rest of the world and broaden humanitarian assistance to countries with vulnerable healthcare systems. Solidarity and cooperation, not each of us fighting our battles alone, is what makes us stronger in defeating the pandemic. Let us embrace this idea and work to bring it to reality.